Hello, hello. Can
Hello.
you guys
Uh,
can hear me okay?
Hi there. Yes, I can.
Hello guys, welcome to the show, The Joes. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Absolutely.
Good deal, good deal. I'm trying to come down off the day. It's been a doozy. But yeah. Hey, tonight is a super moon and a blue moon, and I'm feeling that energy. Oh boy, am I feeling it.
Absolutely. It was big.
Oh,
It was big and bright last night, and it's like way bigger tonight.
Yeah, after it quit raining here, I went out and sat for a while, and then it turned orange about 3 o'clock this morning. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. I don't think I slept much last night.
Oh, too
Hello,
hot.
yeah, well, yeah, it is what it is.
It's cold here now. It's like 52 degrees here. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It ain't that time yet.
For real?
Yeah, I ain't worn a jacket in 5 months, you guys. I had a jacket on tonight on the porch. I'm like, I like it. Don't get me wrong, but I had a jacket on.
Damn.
Yes.
we always knew when it was a full moon on the fire department because the calls, especially the medical runs, were just crazy.
Yes.
Yes.
Every time, no fail.
Yeah, I know.
Busy.
I've talked to several people in the industry in the field, and they say the same thing.
Every time. You could always, I mean, multiple ER runs, multiple car accidents, people.
Cops are busy too.
There's a
Yep.
lot of DV stuff that I was involved in on full moon nights. A lot of DV stuff. It's crazy. Were you
Yeah,
were you in the
yeah,
fire
you
service too, Joe?
Yes, I was a volunteer firefighter slash EMT.
Wow, we've got the same
nice.
name, the same. I started as a volunteer firefighter, and then I became paid part time, and then became full time as a EMT, advanced EMT, and a firefighter. So wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
Andy, I'll be charging mine later. I'll be charging myself too, cleansing out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna take these outside and let them sit.
And you need to get that skull out there too. It needs a good cleansing. Is
Oh, definitely, definitely.
yeah. Anything that's here's all the stuff we talk about needs a good. I have one that says sunstone, and it's good for Gemini's, and it says creativity, and it's a little tower that sits on my desk near my computer with my black tourmaline to get rid of all that negativity. And yeah, they got to get charged tonight because they've been doing overtime lately.
Hmm.
So, but how are you guys doing tonight? Let's. Sherry says it was 76 there. Mm.
It's weird the weather. I don't get it.
Oh, it's going to be a while before I see anything below what I've been seeing. August and September are our worst months, and September is typically a high hurricane month. All of
Hmm.
our major hurricanes usually hit in September, so I got to keep an eye on the. They're not out of the clear to the end. It used to end at November 1st. Now it doesn't end at the end of November, hurricane season. But it likes to rock and roll out there in September, so we got to stay vigilant. But then after that, we might get some cool weather. I don't
That's
want to
great.
get too cold. I'll complain all damn winter. Y'all will hear me say every time it gets cold. I
I
don't like.
remember. I remember.
Anytime it drops below 70.
Yes, 'cause I'm so used to heat. I can't stand it when it gets cold. I don't complain in the summer too often, because I like to complain all winter, and I can't be that complain all year round person. I can't stand complaining.
You
So
had a couple days last winter where you were not happy. I remember
no,
that.
no, 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 no. I don't even like going out that door. You can't even.
That's what you
It's too
said.
cold.
Yes.
Mm-mm. Especially when the wind starts ripping and it cuts right through you. Hell no.
Hmm.
Got no use for all that mess. We're gonna give it a few minutes, let everybody trickle in if they're gonna come in, and we got
I
some
will.
things to talk about. So,
Yes, I'll be right back. I need to go refill this. I found a bug floating. I need to change it up and wash it now.
oh,
So I'll
dude,
be right
for
back.
real.
Yeah. I hate when bug. I looked down to take a drink and I seen something black and turned and it's a little tiny little fly. I'm like,
Yeah,
Well,
son
at
of a bitch.
least you looked first.
I
right.
know. I've done it before. I ate it.
I've done it.
I opened a box of cereal one time. The lid was closed on it too, and I don't get it. But and it our cereal sits on top. Our boxes sit on top of our fridge just to keep out of the way, and they're accessible. So
Yeah.
it was it was something dark flake something. I can't remember what the hell it was either. But I opened a box and I poured. Didn't see nothing. Poured the milk in. Took a bite, and you know how stink bud smells. I tasted that and I went.
Uh-uh.
and I spit it, and there it was dead, thank God. But it was there, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I lost my mind.
I
So
had a I had a random fly show up in here yesterday, and I thought that like the cat got it or something, but it showed up again last night. That I found it this morning. It went over and got in the cat's water, and it was floating when I woke up. I was like, "Damn, finally, get out of my room."
yeah, I hate when they get in here because of that, but that's all right. I'll be right back, folks.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. So, how was your day, Joe?
It was good. I may have to duck out in a minute too, not yet, but my youngest son just realized he made a request of me for dinner last week that I couldn't make last week, and he just realized that I made a 5 pound bacon wrapped smoked meatloaf today, and that's
Mm,
like 4.5 pounds more than I can eat. So he's
yeah.
he's headed over in a little bit to pick up the leftovers.
Oh, nice. That sounds really good. I love a good meatloaf like that. I really do. Wisdom, I didn't realize you were only 5 hours from me. That's right. You're in Florida, aren't you? I know Mom is. So is Firefly, SW Firefly. She's down there, Central Florida as well. Hello, Andy. How are you? Doodle. So yeah, we're gonna go over the Brian Kohberger Alibi tonight. Um, and there's a little something before we start that, though. I'm gonna catch everybody up on here in a minute. It's just a little tidbit about Stern's mother. That's right, Wisdom. You're in South Carolina. I do remember that now. Um, there was something that came up about her that I saw it on Plunder, and I was like, wait a minute, because she missed it too. And then she went and did with her thing and got the recording. But I was going to show you guys that here in just a few minutes, and then it's only going to take a minute to review that, and then we're going to get into the Kohberger stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into the Kohberger stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna watch something, and I also have another thing I want to watch that I think is very interesting, and it may not explain what we want to know, but it'll explain some things. So on how some things work. So we're gonna go into that as well. Let me fix
I'd
something.
definitely like to hear Joe's thoughts on the Kohberger stuff for sure.
Yeah, you've got some new things for me to consider for sure, because that's the reason I picked this name, Joe Schmo, just because I'm like the everyday Joe Schmo. Like, I know a little bit about the cases, but most of the cases I don't know a ton about. Probably.
Yeah,
Except for Delphi.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say Abby and Libby may be the exception to that.
I think you and Salty are probably, at least in my opinion, based on what I've seen and heard, close to expert on this case out here on you. I'm telling you, both of you. So I'm grateful for that too. I really am.
well, thank you. I always, when I hear these certain things in Delphi, I like to do research on it and figure it, just get it as close to facts as we can, because it's how we all know, we saw how out of hand that case investigation got, and I really am trying to give them the benefit of the doubt over there. I also know, just like with Ann Taylor, defense attorneys are going to do their thing, but what's really meritable and what isn't, and it's hard to decipher that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is. Because if you think about it, if they're not going to allow that odonism stuff in, it's going to only come down to all your evidence, and they really kind of probably should focus on some of that. But I'm sure they are and have. But they're doing a real good job of throwing that reasonable doubt out there, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pull up something to show you guys real quick. Okay, let me get my screen shared out here.
Oh, I didn't know that South Carolina was that close to where she was in Florida. That's wild.
Oh yeah, that's when Letitia was going over to the Carolinas to visit her family, and she made that U-turn or pit stop in Florida and dropped Gannon off here. Got back on the road. Well, she went down to Live Oak for some reason, turned around, went back up to the Carolinas. So yeah, we're really not that far. My niece is getting ready to move their Wisdom from well, no, actually it's North Carolina, I think, but she's out in Washington and they're military and they're about to come your way.
Yeah,
So I might be down there soon with my sister to go visit the babies, my great niece and nephew. So, and I have a case. There's a case out of Florida. It's a guy named Brandon Adelot, and the case is over and done. But the reason I want to talk about the case It is a local case, but it's also been in the national news. Um, we have a local reporter here, and her name is Molly Barrows, and she has her
Mm-hmm.
own podcast. She's been a journalist here. She's an award-winning journalist. She covered a major story here years ago, the King brothers who killed their father,
Yeah.
and she wrote a book about it and did a deep dive. The boys talked to her off and on the whole time they were in prison. She wrote a book about it, and now she's working on a second book with a lady named Pam Hill. Pam's sister was Sharon Adelot, and Sharon was murdered by her own son on Christmas Eve.
Oh.
And Brandon was found guilty and sentenced. He was found mentally incompetent and sentenced to the Florida State Mental Hospital. We have one, and it's in Chattahoochee, Florida. And every 6 months, she has to go back before the board because they want to, talk about Brandon. Is he sane now? Is he not? What are we going to do? And they just decided that he is going to go to a step down facility. And she's not, Pam isn't happy, and I don't blame her. There's a whole deep dive into that case and what the Florida law about it and what's going to happen moving forward. And I've spoke to Molly a couple of times, and she has agreed to come on the show with us and talk about the case. So I'll be setting that up with her soon. She's a busy lady, and she worked for our local news affiliate for many, 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 many years. Now she works for one of our local newspapers. So she's busy, but she's willing to take the time and come in and talk to us about that case a little bit and touch on the other cases that she covered. So I'm looking forward to scheduling and getting her on to talk to us about some of those things.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That particular scenario fascinates me because the whole guilty but mentally incompetent
Mm-hmm.
confuses me as a ruling, because if they're mentally incompetent, then they're probably not capable of assisting in their own defense. So
Yeah,
yes, send them to a facility where they can get help. But when they get to that point where they're ready to step down, then they're competent and able to assist in their defense, and then you have the trial, and then you try them on the facts of the case.
exactly. And Florida has a really weird way of doing that, and that's one of the things I want to take a look at. I mean, we see how good their investigation was into Stearns and what have they done there, but not every case is like that one. And it's just a weird. Not many people get away with that in Florida. You know what I mean? But we do. He did, and he was. I think Brandon was 18 when it occurred. But there's a whole backstory with his father, and what part did his father have in his role and what he did to his mother. It's a crazy, crazy case. And when um, Molly said that we could actually review some of her work here on the channel, but I'm not going to do it today because we've got a lot to cover with the Kohberger stuff. So I will be putting that together for us and scheduling that out with her. So let me pull up this screen. First, let me get to the spot we need to look at. Oh, right there. Okay. I was like, where's my present button? There it is. Like, hold on one second, guys.
Hey, butterfly.
Oh, why won't I mute? That's crazy. I can't click my mute button. Oh, my kid's standing behind me, and he just showed me. He's like pointing at it. He's like, "Mom."
Northport again.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Yeah. Right.
It
Now,
seems some stuff goes on down there a lot. God.
okay. Where'd it go? Okay. Right here. Let me get this bigger for you guys to see it. Let me know if you guys can't see it. Whoa.
I think it's a little too big there.
Okay, what about that? Because I got my screen that you guys see is a little smaller than my other screen, so I didn't know if you guys could see that well enough or
Yep.
not.
We can
better?
There we go. Yep.
There you
Okay.
go.
All right. So right here, I don't know if you guys can see my little thing right there. Remember when? Okay, so the police are there, right? And they've already cleared the house. It says so up there, and they're there talking to Deborah Stearns. So right here on the 29th at 1:35, this is in the morning. Have FD respond to Snug. There's the address. Female Deborah has low blood pressure, requesting FD to check her out. fire department.
Okay.
So they dispatched paramedics to come out and take a look at Deborah because remember she ran outside calling for Maddie in the
Yeah.
woods and all
Right.
that. And the cops
Right.
came and were talking to her. So apparently, while they were talking to her, Miss Thing has some sort of anxiety
That should have lowered her blood or raised her blood pressure,
testing to
not
be
lowered
checked
it.
out. Well, yeah, our girl. Let me pull it up here. I got to get my other screen. Miss Plunder done went and got the audio on that. It's not real big. Yeah, it's not real big. It's just something I do. Since we do follow the case, I did want to.
She's been good on getting stuff on that case, though. I'll say that much.
Oh, she gets everything on every case. You can go
Mhm.
get what you want if you're willing to. Yeah.
Yeah, she's very good.
Oops. Okay, let me back that up because I messed it up. Okay, here we go. Let me present. Okay. This isn't very long, like I said, so we're just going to take a look. Okay.
Snug.
Plunder, true crime audio.
The female here, Deborah, is low blood pressure, requesting EMTs to check her out.
10-4.
Delta 27, we'll put FD's 97.
10-4.
3 William 11 Northward.
Go ahead.
SD is transporting the female to Fawcett ER on St. Street.
10-4.
So yeah, did you hear the dogs barking? That happened at the home of Stefan Stern's parents only a mere 3.5 hours after Stefan Stearns did his perp walk. He was arrested February 28th. Well, this call came through February 29th around 1:35 a.m. and 51 seconds to be exact at the home of Stefan's parents. It appears cops were already there. They were summoning help for Deborah, his mom. According to that call, which I kind of stepped over the audio to redact their full home address, for privacy's sake, they were getting Deborah help because of low blood pressure, but the cops were already there. Now, you might remember there was a lot going on that night, and Deborah was being very emotional, very animated, even when the cops pulled up. I can't believe I missed this part in the CAD activity report when we went over those 22 PDFs that were sent to me from the Northport Police. If you have not read them yet and want to, again, I'll put links to my Patreon below. Everything we'll talk about in this video, those 22 PDFs, the divorce drama between Stefan's parents who ended up not getting divorced, and more. I don't know sometimes how those dispatchers understand each other. This is the best that I could translate compared to what we'll see on the CAD activity report. That lovely fellow with the smart British accent. I'm an Anglophile. I love all things dealing with British accents and everything.
Mr. Bean.
Anyway, he was asking for the fire department to respond with EMTs over to Snug. He says he just calls it Snug. It makes you think of a nice little snug home. Well, this home probably isn't that snug and warm and everything thanks to Stefan's actions, which are unfortunately affecting his parents. So he talked about the female Deborah having low blood pressure, but as soon as he comes on, you hear the dogs barking. Those poodles that always bark when strangers are there, or apparently they also bark when Stefan sneaks home at 3:16 a.m. Why are they barking at him? Shouldn't they know him? Anyway, I'll play that audio again for you one more time in case you missed it.
Delta 27, also.
Go ahead.
Could you have FD respond over here to Snug?
Plunder, true crime audio.
The female here, Deborah, is low blood pressure, requesting EMTs to check her out.
10-4.
Delta 27, we'll put FD's 97.
10-4.
311 Northward.
Go ahead.
FD is transporting the female to Fawcett beyond Denver.
10-4.
He was requesting for EMTs to check Deborah out, and then at one point it sounds like he says FD is on scene, and the CAD notes do line up with that. And it sounds like if it's the same call, which I think it is, FD transported Deborah, the female, to Fawcett Memorial Hospital ER. Maybe her blood pressure indeed had dropped low enough for them to say, well, let's just take her in. She is older. I believe she's in her 70s, like her husband. They have a myriad of health issues, as we found out in previous videos when we listened to that Poodle podcast where Deborah was featured talking about her dogs and her husband, her anniversary gift, and all that stuff in previous videos. So the timing on everything, we're really getting more of a picture of how things played out that night, how closely everything unfolded. The Orange County Sheriff's Office posted that video of Stefan Stearns' perp walk. They posted it to Twitter at 9:52 p.m. on Wednesday. The text announced a major development in the case of then still missing 13-year-old Maddie Soto. Maddie was not discovered, unfortunately not alive until that March 1st Friday. So this is still Wednesday. And so at 9:52 p.m., we're seeing Stefan do the perp walk. It's so interesting in the timing. Cops planned this, you know. According to the Northport PD supplemental report written by Officer Jared Fegan, he showed up with Detective Zayn Robles to Stearns' parents' house Wednesday, February 28th, 2024 at approximately 9:46 p.m. That's obviously by design. The Eastern time zone is 5 hours behind GMT time during the winter months, referred to as EST time. So the 2:31 in this body cam video I forgot I had means it was filmed at 9:31 p.m. But Stefan's perp walk wasn't posted to Twitter until 9:52 p.m. on Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. The cops arrived at that Northport home of Stefan's parents only 6 minutes prior to that viral video being posted to Twitter. That video of Stearns' perp walk has more than 300,000 views by now. The cops arrive at 9:46 p.m. that night. 9:52 p.m. that night, only 6 minutes later, Stearns' perp walk is going viral. It's posted to Twitter. So the cops obviously wanted to be there, sitting on the house, sitting on his parents in terms of, okay, what are you guys about to do? What's going on here? We're about to post this news to the world. Your son has been arrested for some pretty heinous crimes against little 13-year-old Maddie, the daughter of his then on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jennifer Soto. So the Northport Police Department unveiled a lot of things to me when they gave me these 22 PDFs. It was adding on to what we knew from that huge 896-page dump of information we had previously received from the state's attorney's office down there in Florida. Well, anyway, thank God for web sleuths, because I had skipped right over that CAD activity. I was like, okay, they gave me this CAD activity report, blah, blah, blah. I had skipped right over the fact that it contained the fact that Deborah needed EMTs called there for low blood pressure, and it happened only a few hours after Stefan was arrested. So what happened in between? Now, that evening, they arrested Stefan. The Kissimmee Police Department worked with the Orange County Sheriff's Office to arrest Stefan, 37. They found the creepy stuff on his phone and everything, or in his Google Drive, containing horrible images and videos of Maddie. They explained that Stearns was the boyfriend of Maddie's mother. They said he was the last confirmed person to see her the morning of Monday, February 26th, when she went missing. They said through the work of our digital forensics unit earlier today, so this was still Wednesday when they found all this stuff out, they moved quickly. You gotta love them. Detectives discovered images and videos that were criminal and sexual in nature. So this afternoon, Stearns was brought into OCSO Central Ops, where he was interviewed by Kissimmee Kissimmee and OCSO detectives. He invoked his right to an attorney and was placed under arrest and transported to jail, where we expect he will be held on no bond. So we know he's still in jail. It is now Tuesday, August 13th. We're waiting. So what happened in between cops arriving, 6 minutes later, Stefan's perp walk happening, and then 3.5 hours later, 1:35 a.m., his mom is being carted off to the ER due to low blood pressure? Well, a lot. When those detectives arrived, I keep looking at it as the scene out of some kind of movie. These two detectives roll up these elderly parents' home, not expecting to see what they saw. Deborah outside the house screaming for Maddie. Now, she's talked about her own health issues, like having diabetes. I think she got a knee replacement. I think she called herself the bionic woman. Her husband had health issues. The reports say Deborah was very emotional, and even though she eventually calmed down, apparently she was still stressed out enough to have her blood pressure drop. I had to ask the dear University of Google, can stress trigger low blood pressure? Because I wasn't sure. It said generally stress raises blood pressure. So many people believe the main likely cause or only cause of low blood pressure is poor breathing. But there can be other causes. Often after periods of intense anxiety, the body is left feeling very fatigued, and this can contribute to low blood pressure in people. So maybe that's what happened to her. It says yes, emotional stress can cause low blood pressure,
Hang
also
on a
known
minute.
as hypotension, not hypo. When people experience
You say something?
I did. She could have taken something to calm herself down from the craziness that she's seeing on the news and all this other stuff, and that could have dropped her blood pressure.
Yeah, she could have taken her anxiety medicine, maybe some Ativans.
Right.
Yeah, or even hypertension. I have hypertension medicine, and
Yep.
I'm supposed to take 5 milligrams, and maybe she took like 2 or 3. Boom, dropped out.
Yep.
I personally think she's very theatrical, like her son.
Mm-hmm.
stress, anxiety, or other emotional issues, the brain signals the kidneys to release more fluid into the bloodstream, which can lower blood pressure. Hyperventilation is another link between anxiety and low blood pressure. So let's again look back at why Deborah was in this state. Prior to cops even arriving, Deborah, of course, knew, okay, it's Wednesday. Maddie has been missing since Monday. This is after 48 hours of this child being missing. She has to know something's wrong. Just like Jennifer Soto's mom, Maddie's grandmom. When she talked to the news, she had mentioned something about the passage of time and it being a few days and still no word from Maddie. Generally, that's when you become more afraid something's really wrong here. Now, already, I wonder how long Deborah had been outside. If she's no spring chicken and she's not in the best of health, and she hears this and she doesn't know where Maddie is, and she finds this weird torso in her son's room. She was thinking it was a real body part, perhaps, and she's going outside, and she could not have known the cops were on their way. Maybe she had an inkling. Maybe she knew Stefan and Jennifer were being questioned. Maybe her husband, Chris, kind of told her the happenings. I don't know if Chris was being questioned up in Kissimmee at that same time, too, or not. Of course, we'll get more data as this case progresses. But imagine her being outside late at night. It's almost 10 o'clock. She's screaming into the darkness of the woods. How far outside of her home? Was she out there with a flashlight, or was she walking around, wandering in the woods or the marsh or what have you, and screaming Maddie's name? How long had she been walking out there? I'm saying all this to say maybe that's what caused her low blood pressure. Maybe she was hyperventilating, very stressed out. So they arrived. They see Deborah outside her residence calling out for Maddie. There's 2 vehicles there. One of the cars apparently belonged to her husband, Chris. One of the cars apparently belonged to her son, Stefan. And boy, what trouble he's brought his parents. That's what I keep thinking in this case, in this video. That's why I wanted to do this update, to talk about the response of people who commit these heinous crimes and the impact it has upon, of course, not only the victim, who is at the center of this, the victim's loved ones, but also the perpetrator's loved ones. How a perpetrator, a killer, can throw their world into a tizzy too, and how a lot of the online mob can go after people rightly or wrongly, like Chris Watts' parents, or maybe now even Stefan Stearns' parents, whether they deserve it or not. It says that night contact was eventually made with Deborah, who was very emotional during our initial interaction. So I wonder why it says eventually made. I love to know the meaning behind what some of these cops say, the way they write. I know they have to kind of write in a specific way. But was Deborah out there wandering around, and did the cops, how far outside of her residence did they have to go track her down? And I'm wondering if she still drives. Does she still drive? I guess she didn't maybe find it necessary to drive around and look for Maddie if she was thinking Maddie was around. Maybe she thought it best to be on foot. She's there alone, just with the dogs. Her husband is up in the hotel taking care of the housing crisis that his son, Stefan, has thrown himself into. So it says, initially, Deborah only appeared to be upset by a torso she found in her son Stefan's room. She would elaborate on the torso and describe it as, a kinky doll. I don't know how it looks. I didn't even Google it. It was later determined to be a rubber plastic toy found by Deborah when she was cleaning the room where Stefan had been staying. So Deborah said Stefan wasn't there. She believed he had returned to the property last night. And I still don't know if they technically mean Tuesday night, which would really be Wednesday morning if they're talking about 3:16 a.m. The way this is coming across, it sounds like Deborah was either too upset to explain things correctly to police, or it was again like pulling teeth. Eventually they were getting more and more truth out of her. At first she was just upset about some torso found in Stefan's room, but then it got deeper and deeper. It was later divulged by Deborah. She was awoken at exactly 3:19 a.m. hours this morning, so now he says this morning, before he said last night. That's why it gets confusing. But her 5 dogs were barking in a manner to alert her that someone was at the house. Now that in and of itself, you're probably already on pins and needles. Maddie's missing. I don't know if Deborah was side-eyeing her own son. Maybe they were by then. And then you're trying to get some sleep. You need your sleep, especially as an older person. And then your dogs start barking their heads off in the middle of the night. But Deborah is saying they were alerting her that someone was in the house. Aren't those dogs used to Stefan coming home? Or was it because of the odd hour? Or could they just pick up something weird about Stefan? Maybe that's why they barked at him.
Yep. Remember, them poodles got on his nerves. He can't stand them old deaf people and old deaf parents and the annoying poodles. I love those poodles now. But yeah. I tend to remember, because when Deborah went into the room and found the torso, and then she's like, didn't know if it was real, and runs outside and starts screaming Maddie. I mean, that, and the cops.
What did she think she was? Here's my question. What the hell did she think she was going to accomplish for yelling for Maddie like that either? Like, what were you doing?
Northport is 2.5 hours south of where Maddie lives.
Right.
Yeah. Because Stefan had come back home, and we've seen the reports where he left Kissimmee, and this is before his arrest, and he did drive back to his parents' home, but not with Dad. Dad was still at the hotel. Jen didn't know where he went. But yeah, she had made the statement that she didn't know if Matt even placed in the woods. Now, who would place her in those woods if it wasn't your own son?
Right.
Like, she's not going to randomly show up in the woods near your house.
2.5 hours south of where she lives.
Yeah. So this lady, if you listened, now the interview she's talking about on the dog podcast, that's where she jokes about her husband having a heart attack. And then she said, and the lady's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh, well, he didn't die. And I was like, damn, yeah. And she's like nice. Very wrapped up in herself and her poodles, and she's very crazy.
Dramatic.
Yeah, and there's nothing funny or humorous about this case at all. It's very tragic. It's very disgusting. But if there was one thing that makes me kind of giggle, it's her walking into his room and her finding that doll.
Yes.
And he's like, Mom, I told you not to go in my room when I'm not there.
I can picture that too. Yes.
Where's the other half of your doll, dude?
The whole family's insane, obviously.
It is, yes.
you know,
the letters between him and his dad when he's in jail, and his he's like, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do that for me, I need you to do this for me, and his dad's like, okay,
ordering all the books he wanted, explaining it, and
the games, the origami,
because I've got the 896 doc drop, and we have the 22 PDFs that Paula mentioned. That's where I got them from, was her Patreon. And so she's also there. I know they're waiting right now on the jailhouse calls. And like I said, during the Casey Anthony trial, we saw all the calls between her and her mom and dad.
Yeah, I
and
can't wait to hear these calls.
They got crazy. I do know that Stefan, now I didn't want to pull the report from Plunder because it's all redacted, but all I do know, she did it herself for privacy. But there were 5 phone numbers that Stefan continued to call from the jail. I don't know we don't know who they were, and she redacted the numbers because she doesn't want to put that information out there, obviously. But, so we are waiting on them to come down now. I know that her and the docket have applied for all of that, and we're just waiting on them to drop stuff as it comes out. So as soon as we get more docs or anything comes down in the case, we'll get it for sure.
I gotta wonder what mom might actually know as compared to what she's making everybody believe she doesn't know. Especially the way she went out there looking for Maddie, yelling for her as if she'd be in the backyard or something. I wonder if there were conversations or things that she's seen from her son in the past that would make her believe that.
I think her husband told her they were on their way out there.
Yeah.
He's in Kissimmee still, right? The dad. And she's home. I think he alerted her, Stefan's arrested, shit's going down. They're probably coming to the house. Did she wait till she saw headlights coming down that road and gonna run out there and be all dramatic? Maddie.
Very possibly, yeah.
I don't. This lady doesn't give me enough reason not to want to believe anything she says.
Well, Stefan is how old? 38? How old?
I think it was
36 or 38. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's living with his parents.
Well,
off and on.
Yep, you're right.
She knows that he's a pervert. I'm sorry, but the things that he did and that he participated in, whether by himself or with other people, probably mostly by himself at his parents' house, she knows that her son's a pervert. I'm sorry. 30 something years old. She knows. You
got to wonder what she's walked in on before or she's walked into before. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
And like Butterfly says, was her low blood pressure a result of the line of questioning she was receiving from the police officers? Well, they're asking her questions about her son. They would have to be.
Here's the thing, guys, and like what Plunder said, she said it before I could say it, but I've never seen anybody ever have low blood pressure due to stress. Anything that stresses you out is going to raise that blood pressure. Your heart's beating.
Well, yeah, normally because I have anxiety, so I know how my height, how high. But I also do have low blood pressure. Now, was her blood pressure that low when they got there to check her out, or was she claiming, like Fred Sanford, it's the big one, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you.
Yeah,
was it that type of thing? I don't trust this lady. I think there's motive behind everything she's saying,
And because of HIPAA, we'll never know what her actual blood pressure really was.
Right.
Like the cops don't have a blood pressure cuff there. So they're reporting low blood pressure based on her complaints.
She's acting,
her complaint. She's complaining of low blood pressure, but
she was probably saying, I'm weak. I think my blood pressure's bought it, that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna
she was
pass
probably
out.
about to pass the hell out. Was mopping to get arrested too with his half a torso. I don't know. It's just, it was very, and I saw because that dropped the other day, and I saw it and I was like, well, what is this? I was like, oh hell, how did we miss that? Because we didn't read over the CAD report thoroughly either. We just jumped into the docs,
Butterfly, Butterfly is saying distractions. That could be it too. She could have been trying to distract them from other things. So very good.
Yeah, Butterfly's on top of this case. She's done honed in on these people right there with me, and we were deep diving those documents, and she's been taking a lot of notes. So that's why I had to have her up with me one night to talk about it, and I plan to do that again. But because we are waiting, like I said, on more documents to come out with the case and all those phone calls that we should be getting. So we will be reviewing all that as it comes down. So I'm going to jump into the Brian Kohberger. Now, there's a song, it's a country song, and every single time I hear this song, it reminds me of this guy. And I couldn't help but put the lyrics into my little thumbnail, because it goes, it's a really fast paced dance. I mean, I'm in my car usually jamming out to it, but it's really good. But I got my hands up. I need an alibi. Need to find me a witness. It's just, I thought every time I think about his damn alibi, I think about that song. So I couldn't help but use it in the thumbnail. But we're going to do court TV, and I know Vinnie Politan does not bother me. What they're going to talk about here isn't really going to trigger or bother me, because I know to take a few people with a grain of salt. This is their opinions.
Right.
But if you look at the facts they point out, and forget what they're telling you, but look at the facts, they're going to lay out what was happening. And I think this guy is also going to drive us out to Wawawee Park. So
okay,
you guys are ready. We're going to take a look at this, and then we can also pull up the Alibi document itself. And then I have something else we're going to review as well, to go along with this, that might help us understand some things. But let me get this pulled up.
Let's do it.
Now, that on pause. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. While this is playing, I'm going to take my phone and walk out back with it. I can still chat with you guys in the chat while this is playing, and so I'll be keeping an eye on everything. But here we go. Let me pull this up. Now, Gray Hughes is going to be in this, and he doesn't bother me. He may bother y'all, but just please overlook him. It is what it is. If he's not your guy, he don't bother me at all. Just a random asshole like the rest of us. Here we go.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the Idaho student murders. This is the biggest case on the docket here at Court TV. And this is not the easiest case in the world to prove. It's a case based on circumstantial evidence. Here's more. Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee were four friends living together in an off-campus house at the University of Idaho. They worked hard and were all flourishing as students and having the time of their lives. They were popular, and their house was known as a gathering spot for fellow students. All of that tragically changed in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. Those four students were stabbed to death inside their home. The brutal crime shook the community and touched the nation, setting off an intense manhunt for a killer. Students were afraid to be alone on campus. Some never came back. Investigators from the Moscow Police Department joined forces with the Idaho State Police and the FBI, following every lead, every tip, and every piece of evidence. That investigation took them across the country to Pennsylvania and led them to this man, a grad student at a neighboring university in Pullman, Washington. This accused mass killer has denied the allegations and claims to have an alibi. Where was he? What was he doing? And who was he with? We'll search for answers as we investigate the Idaho student murders. So, if someone's accused of a murder, and this is a horrific murder, your first defense and best defense is always going to be, well, it couldn't have been me because I was somewhere else. And in this case, they have a good window of time as to when they believe the murders took place. So what exactly is the accused killer's alibi? We took a closer look. The alibi for the accused Idaho student's killer is that while four college students were murdered in the early morning hours, he was out for an innocent joyride. Defense attorneys called their client an avid runner and hiker, claiming he often took drives in the countryside late at night and in the early morning hours to enjoy the moon and stars. The accused killer's filing says that once school started, his hiking decreased and his drives increased. His attorneys plan to present cell phone data and photos of the night sky that show he was in the countryside on several occasions. The defense says their client's cell phone was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. So they say the car captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman highway near Floyd's cannabis shop could not be his. Floyd's cannabis shop is off State Route 270, the main route into Moscow from Pullman, Washington. His alibi does not confirm or deny that other surveillance videos of the white Elantra in Moscow is him. Here's the state's timeline of the accused killer's movements, outlined in their probable cause affidavit. Prosecutors say his phone pings in Pullman, Washington at 2:42 a.m. at his Washington State University campus apartment. His phone is on the move at 2:44 a.m. A few minutes later, his cell phone stops pinging. Investigators say that could be because the accused killer turned it off. And for the next 2 hours, investigators track his alleged movements using only surveillance video of what they say is his white Elantra. The state alleges that the accused killer drove from the WSU campus to Moscow by way of State Route 270. A claim they support with surveillance of a white Elantra seen heading in the direction of the highway at 2:53 a.m. and a photo of the same car near Floyd's cannabis shop further down the highway. The accused killer claims that it was not him. Cameras caught a white Elantra traveling through Moscow, first on streets near the crime scene, then on the victim's street from 3:39 a.m. to 4:20 a.m. Police say the accused killer turned his phone back on at about 4:48 a.m. near Blaine, Idaho, a rural community in the countryside about 10 to 15 minutes south of Moscow. According to the prosecution, from 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m., his phone travels south towards Genesee, Idaho, going west toward Uniontown, Washington, a route that could lead toward Hawaii Park. The accused killer claims that park was his favorite place and that in the early morning hours of November 13th, he drove there. His alibi does not say when he got home, but the state says at 5:30 a.m., his cell phone uses service in Pullman, Washington. According to prosecutors, that's when he got home, not after an innocent drive, but after committing a quadruple murder.
So that's the accused killer's alibi, but that brings me to our first question. Let's take a look. Does his alibi make any sense? Court TV producer Cody Thomas is on the case and joining us from Washington State. Cody, there you are. Let me ask you, because it's very specific where he said he went. So my question to you is, does his alibi make any sense?
Well, Vinny, of course, it's up to the court to have a direct answer to that question. But I did go down to his favorite location, Hawaii County Park. And I also went at night to just kind of get a feel of the stargazing vibe that he was going for. It was a long drive. There was a lot of dirt road, several miles of dirt road to get there. Take a look at what this park would have looked like after dark at the entrance gate. According to Brian Kohberger's alibi, he says during the window of time that the murders occurred, he was out driving around simply stargazing, specifically ending up right here at what he calls one of his favorite parks in his alibi, Hawaii County Park. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with coming to a public park, doing what you want to do, stargazing included. That's what they're here for people's leisure in the community. But one caveat about this park in particular, it closes once the sun goes down. It doesn't reopen until 7 a.m. And if you pan over here to the left, it's gated. And that gate is closed. No cars coming in, no cars coming out. So according to Brian Kohberger's alibi, he says he was here during the window of time that the murders occurred. Now, we know those murders occurred between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Now, how is it that he could be out here at those times if this park is closed? Not to say his alibi is untruthful, but it does get a little muddy once you throw that crucial piece of information in here about Hawaii County Park. And again, Vinny, that park is about 30 minutes west of Pullman in the opposite direction of Moscow.
So what's the drive like to actually get to that gate? Like, where are you driving? What are you passing? What are you seeing?
I'm not seeing much of anything besides all of these wheat fields that you can see behind me. And at night, it was very dark, as you can see on your screen right there. And I was out there maybe around 9:30 to 10 o'clock. And you can see there aren't many cars out there. There's one passing right here, but maybe 3 out of that entire trip that I took. And once you get off this main road, you go down 7 to 8 miles of dirt and gravel road with fields on both sides and not much civilization at all. And in fact, at one point, my cell phone dropped signal. Luckily, I was paying attention and figured out how to get back. But after midnight, I don't imagine anyone could pick him up out there. And I find it weird that he was out there at that time in the first place, given what that drive was like.
Now, the darkness would work if you are going stargazing. When you were out in this area, were there any stars out?
Well, I was more so paying attention to the road, but the sky was very wide open, and I would say there's plenty of stars out. But again, I was trying to figure out where to go and make sure that I can make it back home.
And we got a great idea from the video of what we're talking about here. This is not an area where you're going to come across anyone else at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m. It's just not going to happen. But are you passing any businesses? Are you passing any homes, any farms?
Benny, you're passing nothing but open fields without barns, without houses, and all essence of the phrase middle of nowhere. That's what this park felt like. I mean, you were just going and it was dark and I had my bright lights on. Then all of a sudden, off to the right, I saw the entrance gate and I was like, oh, there it is. But before that, you didn't see much of anything on this entire drive.
And I presume there was no one else at the park at that time.
Absolutely not. I was the only one going down that road around 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was the only one coming back off of it.
He also, I believe you said it was a place he would go to run or to hike. And obviously that's what this park is about, right? This is a place where you get in touch with nature. It's way off the beaten path. And I guess it's a place where you can kind of get away. But is it a place you think you'd have to know about to come across?
100% you'd have to know about it because, again, like I said, obviously I was on the main road right here in the clip that you're seeing. But once you get off that main road, close to 10 miles of gravel, no businesses, no buildings, maybe just a couple of power lines running out to maybe there was a building in the park. But again, that gate was closed, so I wasn't able to go in and see what was actually in there at night. But from what I could pick up, you would definitely have to know about it, probably if you were a local or have gone to school out here at WSU or the University of Idaho.
And his alibi is that he's by himself. And how did you feel driving in that area by yourself in the dark, Cody?
I felt like I wanted to get out of there immediately. Of course, I wanted to go see what it was like, try to get a feel of what he was talking about, get a feel of his alibi, see if the stargazing was true. But as soon as I saw what I needed to see, I was out of there ASAP.
All right, Cody Thomas on the case. Thanks so much, Cody.
All right. So if you go and you take a look at the park's website, it tells you it closes at sundown. Whether that gate stays shut all the time or not, I have no clue, but Twiz did go out there and the gates sometimes is open. I don't know if that's, how many times, do you guys know how many times he went out there?
He's been out there at, I think, 2 to 3 different times. And he said he spoke to other people from the area and just kind of was asking, what's the deal with this place? And they've said that it's open often. It's not.
Well, it looks like a beautiful area, but I had to Google map it while we were waiting or while we were watching. And like Vinny said, but didn't really demonstrate very clearly, it's 25 minutes in the opposite direction from Moscow. Moscow is east and Wawawi is 25 minutes southwest.
That's one of the reasons.
In the opposite direction.
It's exactly, because that's why. Now we're going to read her filing in court about this alibi and read exactly what she said. And then we're going to get into where they're going with this. But yeah, the park, and it does, Firefly, there are campgrounds there. I've been there before, not been there, but visited the website before, and I revisited it this morning. And I believe I want to say there was only 10, but I think there was more campsites than that. But they're primitive campsites. You know what I mean? There's no
Or
outlet.
like tent. You don't put campers in there, just tenting, right?
Yeah. Well, primitive means you're not going to have electric and you're not going to have water, right? So there's no RV hookups. So it's a primitive campground. We have a lot of those around here. Our parks are closing at sundown, a lot of them, but they're going to be gated and they're shut, especially out at Fort Pickens on the beach or some of the state parks. You can get around them, right? But you may not be able to drive your car past that gate, but you can still get out of your car,
walk in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not to say, oh gosh, he couldn't have been there because that gate was locked and it's closed. There's actually a couple of pull-offs, I believe, right there near it that you can stop your car, maybe to turn around. You could probably get out right there and do your little stargazing if that's really what you were doing. But that is it, Joe. It is in the opposite direction of the King Roadhouse. And that's where the cast and cell data will come into play, as well as the drive time. So we're going to take a look at all that here in just a few minutes.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some video that is out on the internet. And the question is this video, is it his Elantra?
And look what time it is, 4:07 and 41 seconds or so. I think he parked at 4:08. All right. And then at 4:08, probably exits the vehicle sometime after.
What was that?
Oh, I just said, oh boy, Gray. Yes, I remember this.
Well, I think that Firefly and I concluded he also parked that car at 4:08. You can tell by the headlights going out behind the building.
For that, and then 4:20 it leaves at a high rate of speed.
Excuse me, I need to rephrase that. Someone parked a car behind that building at 4:08. I have no idea who it was.
On the next episode of Accomplice to Murder.
The call came in as a boy not breathing.
Paul was the person who had been carrying out
Evidence in this case in tracking down the suspected killer. They don't have the weapon, but they have this white Elantra. Now, the white Elantra is referenced in the arrest affidavit, and they connect it to the suspect, and it's referred to as the suspect vehicle in other parts of the affidavit. Let me read that to you because I think it's important. Videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1, the Elantra, starting at 3:29 a.m., ending at 4:20 a.m. So they have this window of time. Suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. 1122 King, that is the crime scene. Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road.
Excuse me, Angela, are you talking to me? Am I obnoxious and rude? I've been told that, but it's what it is.
Stopping, turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen and King, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of King Road at approximately 4:20 at a high rate of speed. They are tracking this car via all this surveillance video. Now, there is some surveillance video that's circulating on the internet. This is a still frame from it. You look to the top of the frame, you see the little light there. What car is that? Whose car is that? And the question I have relative to that video is this his Elantra? Joining me to answer this question, host of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Gray Hughes is with us. Gray, thank you.
Now, we still have access to that Linda Lane footage. I'm not going to pull it up right now and review it because they're going to review it here, but we still have all of that to look at whenever we want to. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thanks so much. I know that you have looked at this timeline, you have studied the evidence, you've studied the videos. Let me ask you the big question first of all. Is this his Elantra, in your opinion?
I would say 100%.
And why
Like,
do
I'm
you,
not even.
why do you
Okay,
say
go
that?
ahead.
Why do you say 100%?
Well, if you look at it like this white Elantra is moving around and it matches exactly what law enforcement says in the probable cause document. And then the vehicle parks at 408 near the 1122 King Road residence. And then it leaves at a high rate of speed at 420. Inside of that 12 minutes, all 4 of the victims were murdered. And left at the scene was a knife sheath that had Brian Kohberger's DNA on it.
You know, when we were talking about Delphi the other night, in the hour, you know, the 2:30 to 3:30, and was that enough? It took me right back here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel like they keep shaving that time down.
Mm-hmm.
Down. It's like now we're down to 12 minutes, Gray, for real. Now you're really putting the pressure on me, dude.
Yeah, right.
Firefly and Dago, you both get that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that DNA being on the knife sheath makes it absolutely certain in my mind that the white Elantra that was driving around, and by the way, missing a front license plate, as it drove by an A&W just before entering the area, it showed it was missing a front license plate. And in Pennsylvania, you don't need a front license plate, and his vehicle did not have one until he got new plates right after the murders. So there you go.
That's a
I think
huge
it's
fact.
absolutely his.
That's a huge fact right there. So let's take a look at this video. Let's start at
Now remember, we all have
Oh no. Are you there, Salty?
Oh, I was hoping it wasn't me that froze up, but I'd rather it be me than her.
Are you there? Me too.
Uh,
Oh boy. I'm ready if we need to.
guess we'll find out shortly. Last time it wasn't.
Oh,
Hey guys,
Hey,
there you go.
did I go away for a minute?
yes, you did.
You did.
Swamp signal shit.
Let me
Sorry.
know and I'll load it up real quick.
Look,
Don't take
if we go down and y'all don't, I'll let you know, and because I can still chat and I can still see my stream on the phone and I can still chat through the phone as well. So I'll let you know if we need to run to your stream again to save me.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I don't mind at all.
Swamp signal. Okay. Let me see if I can get this to come back up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I thought it was a pretty funny point that his defense is making. That his alibi is, I was out driving around at the time where there was a white, was that a Hyundai Elantra? Is that what it is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Hyundai Elantra.
Was seen on several security cameras. I was out driving around randomly watching the stars, but that wasn't me driving around in a white Hyundai Elantra.
Yeah.
I'll admit I was out driving around, but
listen,
those weren't me.
Yeah, here's the thing. Anne's going to prove or try to prove her theory based on the cast reports.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this conclusively my client said, I'm over here doing this, this, and this. She literally says this is what he liked to do, was known to do. Then she said he was doing that night. But she's going to use telling them by saying your dad is wrong. And we're going to go into that and
say that last part again,
Yeah, go
Salty. You cut out again.
Did I? Damn it.
You're talking about what Anna is going to use the cast.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and switch it over, Dago. I'll send you the playlist.
Okay.
Like I usually do. All right, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
You all know the routine. My swamp signal is crapping out again.
Dude, will drop my link just in case nobody knows it, but I'm
Well, we only
right
got 21 in here, but people I do see in here, in case we got some listeners that aren't really chatty, that's cool too. Yeah, we'll drop the link. We usually pick up. I've had to do this as a third time that I've had to go over to Dago's. Oh, he's saving us. Joe, Dago, did he leave? Joe, he'll drop us the links in the DMs.
All right. Sounds
Or
good.
unless you don't have one, he'll drop it into the chat for you.
All right.
All right.
Sounds
See
good.
you guys over there soon. Sorry.